All right. My name is Makeda Hill. I am an intern at NOEW, New Orleans Bio Innovation Center. And I just want to welcome everybody. Thank you guys for coming to our event, BioSpark Ignite Your Bio Venture. The New Orleans Bio Innovation Center and Xavier University are honored to host this programming opportunity that focuses on biotechnology. We are thankful to the founders and funders who are here tonight to share their expertise and experiences. It is our honor to introduce a visionary leader and changemaker in the field of health equity, Kwame Tara. Kwame is the founder and CEO of Bear Systems, Inc., an innovative platform dedicated to transforming health outcomes in the Black community. Through a groundbreaking health scoring algorithm, Bear empowers individuals with personalized solutions to live healthier lives while addressing systematic inequalities in healthcare. Kwame's journey began at Xavier University of Louisiana, where he majored in biology and public health with a focus on health equity. This foundation shaped his mission to maximize health in the Black community by integrating cutting-edge practices in human longevity with culturally relevant solutions. His ultimate vision, you ask? To embed health seamlessly into the Black community, making it a cornerstone of how we live, learn, work, play, and celebrate. So everybody, please welcome Kwame. Here you go.
Good evening. How's everybody doing? Good. All right, so I want to tell you guys a story about our company from idea to present day. Most people actually don't know all of this story. So even some of our interns who have been with us for a couple of years now haven't heard some parts of the origin story. So I hope you guys get a lot of value out of this. I was actually going to name the talk "Started from the Bottom, Now We're Here," but I'm not really trying to end up where Drake is right now. So from idea to impact. So this is a text message I received from my aunt. It says, "Hey there, nephew. Just thinking while I'm at work." She's a physician's assistant. She went to Xavier. This would be such a great time for your healthy eating initiative to take shape again. I just had a vision of you focusing on how much African Americans specifically need to invest in healthy living to help prevent being predisposed to all the health issues that are killing us at a higher rate than other races. This would be such a good time because the disparities are at the forefront of everyone's mind. Anybody have any idea when I received this? Might have received this message? Anybody? 2020? Who said that? Yeah. So May 2020, right? Peak of the COVID-19 pandemic, and honestly, it's not obvious to me that Bear Health would exist today without this message. So shout out to the aunt. My first thought was, we don't know how bad we're doing as it relates to our overall health in the Black community. And I wanted to do something so I could communicate clearly our current health status, as well as provide feedback on an ongoing basis, right? We have a lot of workshops and seminars, and those kind of one-off experiences are exciting and get people educated and get people moving for a week or two, right? But then where's the consistent follow-up? That's what I really wanted. I wanted to build a system, not just another education seminar. And I don't have a technical background, so I didn't know how to develop a health score algorithm. I didn't know how to develop an app. And so just like anybody else without a technical background, I just went to Google and I came across a company called Dakadu. So Dakadu is a Swiss-based company that develops digital health engagement platforms. And I reached out to them, let them know about my vision. But the thing is, they don't work with startups. They typically work with large health insurance companies. But what you'll find throughout this presentation is that everything is negotiable. So 2 weeks later, I received a message from the track and cross country coach here at Xavier University. And he asked me if I wanted to go to school because he'd pay for it if I coached. So I had no plans on going to school at the time, but I said, hey, nothing's going on. It's COVID. Sure, why not? I'll go to school. And so I applied to the Xavier University of Louisiana Masters of Public Health program with a concentration in health equity, where I learned all of the ins and outs of what it takes to achieve health equity. And this is an excerpt from my personal statement. As a public health professional, my goal is to develop a lifestyle medicine platform for Black Americans. The platform will foster collective effort among policymakers, community organizations, healthcare providers, and individuals to eradicate health disparities that plague our community. This is where the vision of Bear Health began to take shape. And what I learned in this program, right, in this master's program, was that our current healthcare system, though equipped, just wasn't really designed, right, to solve the Black health problem. Black people are living with and dying from diseases typically found in white Americans at much older ages. Hypertension, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and even some cancers are starting to show up as early as our 20s and 30s. Our bodies can only live with these conditions for so long, and ultimately, we live shorter lives. Take New Orleans, for example, where you can find disparities in life expectancy as great as 26 years, such as between Lakeview and Tremaine. And we know what's causing it, right? Poor social and environmental conditions, poor lifestyle habits, underutilization of healthcare. And what we focus on most here at Bear Health is low health literacy, where 60% of Black people have low health literacy. Most of us don't know how to be healthy, and it's costing us our lives and the healthcare system billions of dollars per year. And so throughout the program, I continued to refine the vision, and ultimately we landed on predicting, preventing, and reversing the chronic conditions that plague our community. And DACADU was actually nice enough to let us use the app for up to 100 users to do a pilot. And so from my practicum to graduate, we completed a pilot where we had about 50 users try out the platform. And basically the platform is kind of like Credit Karma, but for your health. So everybody gets a health score between 0 and 1,000 that represents your overall health. And it's based on your lifestyle, health, and family medical history data. When you first download the app, you answer a couple of questions about your eating habits, smoking and drinking habits, connect a preferred health tracker. We integrate with Fitbit, Garmin, Apple Health, Google Fit, and more. And then you get your initial score. So your score is going to be a number between 0 and 1,000 that represents your overall health, and it's based on your physical activity, your mindfulness, sleep, mental well-being, medical health, nutrition, and self-control. If you go on a run one day, your score goes up a few points. Oh, that was a video. Imagine a guy running right here. So if you go on a run one day, your score goes up a few points. If you get 3 hours of sleep one night, score goes down. Based on those changes, you'll receive messaging from our AI coach for how to improve, as well as have the opportunity to connect with healthcare providers and resources on Bear Connect. So that was the vision. And I was ready to take on the world. I graduated from Xavier, already kind of had the app up and running to an extent. And then I received a quote from DACADU. It's a $250K. Like, where am I going to get that from? Right. So this is May 2022. I hadn't been building this company really for any time, but I knew I had a big bill ahead of me to get to the next stage with the company. I then enrolled in my first accelerator program with the Idea Village, the Idea Institute program. So anybody interested in starting a business, I highly recommend this program. It just helps you kind of understand the fundamentals of startups, right? One of the biggest takeaways was that you want to get your idea in front of people as quickly as possible. You want to see how people react to what you're proposing so that you can know if it's even worth pursuing, for one, and two, what you might need to modify along the way. And so this is me at my first pitch night, first pitch of Bear Health. That's my very supportive uncle on the far left, his wife. And this was it, right? We are just now starting Bear Health. But over the next 6 months, so this is June of 2022, over the next 6 months, not much happened with Bear Health. I just had an idea still. Mainly, I'm just like frozen by this $250,000 tech bill that I had in front of me. And I didn't have tech talent. I didn't necessarily want to give up half of the company to a co-founder. And so I'm just trying to figure it out. And then at the end of that year, I asked DACADU if there was any way that we could work together at a more affordable rate. And so what they allowed us to do was license their health score algorithm. And I paid somebody on Fiverr. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Fiverr. It's just kind of like a quick work spot. Paid him $250. He integrated the DACADU algorithm to our website, and then we had an online health score assessment. And that was our first product. That was what we call our MVP. So over the course of 2023, we conducted over 1,400 in-person health score assessments with our target community, right? So one, we validated that people are interested in knowing their health score. And then two, we started to get to know like what people are really struggling with as it relates to their overall health. Again, all of these were in person, right? When they talk about customer discovery in the startup space, like, you know, at least 25, 30, like we spoke to 1,400 people about what we're doing to validate whether or not it's something we should continue to pursue. Additionally, in 2023, and what's really important about as far as our success goes, we applied to over 65 startup accelerators and incubators. I don't know if you guys noticed, but all like the red means we didn't get in, right? People have seen our success over the past 2 years, but we mostly fail, right? For the most part. And bring up this point because if you do something often enough, a ratio will appear. Right? It's a key phrase. If you do something often enough, a ratio will appear, and ratios tend to continue. And so once I understood that 1 out of every 10 or so programs I applied to, I got into, I was like, well, I need to raise this much money. I'm just going to keep applying to programs. So in 2023, we got into about 6 programs. Here are some of them: the Idea Fuel program, the Futures Fund with Volunteers of America, Black Ambition with Pharrell Williams, and Harvard Innovation Lab Startup Accelerator. Incredible opportunities, brought us incredible amounts of network and funding. And based on all of that traction, DACADU became our first investor. So they invested $37,000 worth of tech into the company, and that enabled us to launch our official app, well, the first version of our app, the DACADU reference app that we've been using in 2024. So over the course of 2024, we grew to about 2,000 users. What we've seen so far is that when people know their health score, particularly how it compares to others, it's a strong motivator for lifestyle change and engaging with preventative healthcare resources. And 70% of our monthly active users are using the platform daily. And based on that traction, DACADU made a $200,000 donation, more so a technology waiver, right? So they waived the 200 of the $250,000 that we had to pay them. They waived it, and some money that we had raised also that year, we used to pay the rest. And so here again, some of our success from 2024. We got into an incubator called NextCube. That was our first 6-figure investment. Again, we used some of that money to pay DACADU the rest that we owed them for our own app. And so our official app, the official Bear Health app, is set to be released at the end of July, or at the end of Q3. Right. Yeah, at the beginning of Q3, beginning of Q4 of this year. So round of applause for that, guys. And then finally, the Bear Health Score Report. So when I first came up with the idea, I had 2 goals. I wanted to provide real-time health education to individuals, and then I also wanted to provide a way where we could collectively track the changes in health trends within the entire community in real time on a month-to-month basis, or however often we wanted to review that. And so the health score report will show average score overall, average score by gender, average health score by category. So what's the activity score among the community? What is the sleep score among the community? And we'll track these trends to inform and drive community health solutions, as well as evaluate the impact of these interventions in real time. And last month, we were up across the board. So this is the February health score report. You can see overall score increased by 2 points, male average increased by 3 points, activity score by 13 points. And we're able to see this on a month-to-month basis, and we use this information to inform our messaging, as well as whatever kind of community health events that we want for the following month. So that's Bear Health, right? And we're here. This is our team. I haven't done this alone at all. Dr. Taylor Smith, Dr. Brianna Sims, and Javon Mead, we're all teammates here at Xavier, cross-country and track teammates here at Xavier. And then Dr. Eric Griggs came on board last year after he completed 1 million steps on our app. He lost 20 pounds, was taken off his blood pressure medication, just kind of became a super user, ultimately team member. He's an incredible asset. And then we couldn't do all of our community work without our interns. So actually, a few of our interns are right here at the center table. So if you guys could raise your hand, yeah. So 1,400 health score assessments. I did not do all of those by myself, right? We work with a lot of students. We provide them opportunity to earn equity in the company, opportunity to get their public health internship credits fulfilled. And it's been very, very valuable to us. And then these are some of the brands that have supported us along the way. Again, not doing this by ourselves. And then finally, this is how it started, a text message from my aunt and how it's going. This is a quote from the health score report, where I say, if we do this every month, every year over the next decade, we can improve the health of the community and we can know we did it. So that's it. Questions? No questions? Oh yeah, question here.
Like community leaderboard for how much people have like engaged or improved while being on the app?
Yeah, so we're predominantly in New Orleans right now. So about 75% of our users are in New Orleans. Right now, we're limited to 1 data set with DACADU because we only have 1 tenant within their platform. And so I wanted to really say that this data set is reflective of this community. And so we focus on New Orleans. We have some users in Atlanta, some users in Houston, California, when we've done different pop-ups there, but mostly here in New Orleans. Your second question, we do trackers every month. So we have a steps tracker, a miles tracker, and a calorie burn tracker. as far as like a leaderboard where you can see like how you're doing compared to everybody else, that's where it exists for the most part. And we also do tons of challenges. So in 2024, at the beginning of the year, we did the Mardi Gras Steps Challenge. So we gave away $5,000 to whoever took the most steps on our app in 2024 during Mardi Gras. This year, we just gave away 2 tickets to the Super Bowl. So if you took 59,000 steps in a week, you were entered in for a chance to win 2 tickets to Super Bowl 59. So part of really what we're trying to do is just create a healthy experience, right? The app tracks you in the background. Whether you open the app or not is not as important to us as you engaging in health promoting activities in your life. And so if we can create these experiences, whether it's challenges, whether it's events, and then overall we just watch the trends go up, then we'll have done it right.
That's great. Thank you.
Yep.
Watch, or is it just the app on the phone? Like, tell us a little more about that.
Yeah. So the app can track your steps by itself, but we integrate with Fitbit, Garmin, Apple Health, Google Fit, whatever you use to track your steps right now, we'll pull it from there. And that's pretty much how your steps are tracked. And if they're not tracking, then it means it's not connected. Yeah, back here.
Does the app take into consideration the history or the past, whether it's trauma, whether it's genetics? Does it take into consideration any of those things when comparing?
Sure. Yeah. So as far as trauma goes, nothing right now is in the algorithm. But family medical history is. So you'll be asked questions in the physical health section. Do you or any of your first degree relatives have type 2 diabetes? Have any of your first degree relatives had a heart attack before 60? All of these types of questions around your family medical history go into your score as well.
I was wondering how accessible the app is. Like, is it free to users or do you have to pay to download it?
Yeah, so the app is currently free. In the future, when we roll out the official app, there will be a charge, $5 per month or $50 per year. That also comes with discounts to different health and wellness partners that we have throughout the city. So our users currently get 20% off at Main Squeeze, Lakeview, 10% off at Daily Beat, just different restaurants that we partner with, kind of trying to make the healthy choice the easy choice, and additionally just add some more value to the app. But as of right now, it's free. And if at any, in the future when we are charging, for whatever reason, no questions asked, if you want a free subscription, we'll give it to you.
Thank you. In what ways does the app track mental health?
Yeah, so we have a psychometric questionnaire that is basically the mental health category, the mental health section of the app. So you answer a series of questions, and if you download the app and kind of go through the mental health section, you'll see that. But it asks questions like, how often do you feel stressed or anxious, right? And so then it's on a scale, often, sometimes, not at all, so on and so forth. And then each answer has a data point, and it all goes towards your score. And then the health score algorithm is based on 300 million person years of clinical health data. And so basically all of the longitudinal data that exists in the world goes into the score to determine whether or not what your health risk is overall. Yep.
Thank you. And what will happen in the event that for some reason the score starts going down?
Mm-hmm.
What would the app do for you?
Yeah, so depending on how quickly it goes down or why it's going down, we set rules to send particular messaging to a user. So we may know, for example, that a user who has a self-control score of 510 and a activity score of 575, and then a physical health score of 510. Many other users that have that same kind of model might be at risk for type 2 diabetes or might have type 2 diabetes. And so we'll let them know, hey, based on your score, based on your profile, you may be at risk for this condition. We highly recommend that you go connect with a healthcare provider. Here's the link to the healthcare provider, right? And so that's what we start with, this kind of rule-based algorithm, but then eventually people will be able to interact with the chatbot.
So it has a function of preventiveness in that. In that
Absolutely.
case.
I mean, that's the entire aim, is to prevent it. 90% of healthcare spending is on preventable conditions. 90%. We spend like $4 trillion or something. Oh, I think it's something like that, actually. My goal is to get that as close to zero as possible. Right? We shouldn't be spending the majority of our healthcare dollars on preventable conditions. We should prevent them, and then spend that money on things that we don't completely understand yet, right? Things that we don't have cures to just yet. Yeah.
I know that
I think you were my professor once.
Very
Drill.
happy to have taught you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm very happy to see you doing this. So I know that lots of families in New Orleans, around New Orleans, have actually been here for generations. So there are hundreds of family members who are connected through many different types of relationships. And do you have a track of these connections so that you will get an idea about the family history of risk and what are the factors and things like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's definitely on the roadmap. So my vision for it is, so for example, when you ask or answer the medical health questions, you'll be asked, any of your relatives had a heart attack before 60? I actually don't even know in my family if who had one or not. But if by way of this new innovation, we can create kind of like a family tree situation where if you identify that person as your grandmother or as your mother, all of the health history can be passed down, and you won't even necessarily have to answer that question, right? So that's definitely something we envision for the platform. Yes, sir. Absolutely, 100%. When I was in my graduate program, I almost decided not to continue to pursue building this platform because policy is really the answer, right? If you can just make better rules that essentially create health promoting environments, then most of the problems will go away. But it needs the data, and really that's the ultimate play here at Bear Health. We have real-time data, and we'll have it nationwide, and we'll be able to stratify by city, state, zip code, partner organization, and we'll be able to know what type of health promotion programs or what type of policies or infrastructure changes are the most effective. What effect are they having? Do we need to double down and continue to invest in them because they're working, or do we need to pull back? And we'll be able to see that in real time.
Are there any local healthcare or wellness organizations utilizing your data now?
Say that again.
Are there any local or it necessarily doesn't have to be local, but organizations, healthcare or wellness organizations utilizing your data now to help identify how to tackle these issues in the Black community?
So currently it's we have collaborations with local run clubs, but no one's formally using it just yet. Those are some of the partnerships we plan to establish this year. So Girl Trek, for example, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Girl Trek. It's a walking organization, nationwide walking organization. They have about 1.7 or 1.5 million women committed to walking. Their goal over the next 10 years is to increase life expectancy among Black women by 10 years in 10 years. But they're looking for a technology platform to kind of fulfill that. They built one last year. They didn't like what they built. And our platform offers this comprehensive health tracking. And so that's kind of what we want to do with organizations, wellness organizations. In a lot of ways, all of the work is already being done, right? We don't have to go out there and start the community initiative here and the community initiative there. It's just the fact that nobody's tracking anything. We don't know if we're improving. We don't know what's the most effective. And so providing Bear is that kind of universal tracking platform. We can know what's the most effective interventions and essentially what we need to continue to invest in or what we need to, divest. Yep.
I know this mostly tracks a lot of movement, but is there any way that you can implement like nutrition into the app?
Yeah. So there's a nutrition section, and similar to the mental wellness section, mental well-being section, you answer questions about your eating habits, right? So how often do you eat 2 or more servings of fruits and vegetables per day? How often do you eat 2 or more servings of candy bars per week, or 2 or more servings of fried food per week? All of these numbers again are based on this longitudinal data, and based on how you answer that, you'll get a certain score.
I guess what I'm asking is there a way to input the food that you're eating every single day rather than like guesstimating how much you're having per week?
Not currently on the platform, no. And honestly, I think we'll more than likely just use what are called continuous monitors. So there's continuous glucose monitors, continuous blood pressure monitors in the future, because that's more reliable. That's a more reliable metric for what you're eating than what you say you're eating, right? Because even in that case, when you're submitting your food, because the image might not be, or the AI might not be able to capture and understand how much oil is in that food or what oil is made with. Your numbers, your blood pressure, your cholesterol, and your glucose levels are the strongest indications of what you're eating. And so what people will be able to see is if they're wearing continuous glucose monitors and then their glucose levels the resting glucose levels in the app start to elevate, they'll know that eating that diet drove their nutrition score down and drove their medical score down. And so we're going to rely more so on that than on like what people say they're eating.
Thank you.
Well, the nutrition scores are high here, but I'm skeptical of that data. All right. Oh, one more question. No, good. All right.
Thank you so much, Kwame, for that great presentation. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, please scan the QR code. It'll take you to our website. Download the app. Use access code MBH, all caps, to enter the app, and then you'll get your score. If you don't figure it out on your own, we'll be over here to help.
Thank you so much again. All right, so let's proceed. My name is Tina Langlois. I am the new SBDC Small Business Development Center Director here at Xavier University. We are a national program and we help people start businesses, but also we help people grow businesses if you are already in business. So our center here covers 7 parishes around New Orleans. And today I am pleased to introduce our next speaker. And our next speaker is Mr. Mike Eckert. Mike is a seasoned business executive and investor with nearly 3 decades of experience in early stage investment ecosystems. He was part of the launch team of the Weather Channel. And he also served as president and CEO for 14 years of the same channel, playing a pivotal role in shaping the brand into a household name. Additionally, he was chairman and CEO of Pathfire, the leading digital video asset management company that was later acquired. Today, Mike serves as the chairman of the Gulf South Angels, a venture fund fostering innovation in the Gulf South. He also chairs the investment committee of the Pelican Angel Funds and is involved with several other prominent investment committees and advisory boards, including the New Orleans Startup Fund and Loyola University's Entrepreneurship Institute. With his extensive background as an angel investor and limited partner in various venture capital funds, Mike brings invaluable insights into the world of early stage investing. His leadership and expertise have been instrumental in guiding numerous startups and shaping the future of business. Please join me in welcoming Mike Eckert.
Kwame, did you take the clicker? Kwame, did you take the clicker? Thank you for that kind introduction. And it's great to be here. I'll be speaking about the investing side, as you would suspect from my introduction, and biotech, which is the topic of the session. But I'll also be speaking in general about what investors look for and what investors might do to support companies that aren't necessarily biotech companies. So I'm just going to jump into this now. And I think I'm going to stand over here for a while. That was my high school picture, by the way. Okay. So we're the Gulf South Angels. We're headquartered in New Orleans. We have members in 14 states. We have 140 investors in our group. They're high net worth individuals. We're in the top 15% of angel groups in America for size of an angel group. In fact, there are 400. We're the top 15%. And we're a network model, which means that our investors make individual decisions in investment opportunities as they come to us. To date, we've invested $25 million, a little over $25 million, top 5% in America, in 126 investing rounds in 72 companies. So if you are early stage and you would like to approach us, go to our website. We've invested in companies in 18 states. We are agnostic in terms of the type of company we invest, although we invest heavily in biotech, medical devices, and healthcare IT, among others, as you'll see in a minute. We invest very early stage, the seed round and the A round. We'll invest in opportunistic rounds as well. And we invest in various deal structures, stock structures or convertible note structures, which means that we'll lend you money. These are the sectors in which we've invested. And you can see biotech, healthcare, IT, and medical devices, but we've invested in a number of other kinds of sectors and companies. I want to talk a little bit about biotech investing today. So one of the kinds of companies that we invest in and look at heavily are companies are developing drugs or therapeutics. And I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but even if you're not in the biotech arena, this is just kind of interesting to know. But the Food and Drug Administration has a very tight system for approving drugs before they go to market. And it has a phased and step-by-step process for approving a drug. And this process is very, very expensive. It's millions of dollars. And I thought I'd walk through these with you very quickly for those of you who are in the space or not familiar with it. But the first stage is discovery and preclinical stage, where they're in labs and generally conducting experiments on animals. Next stage, if they graduate to that next stage, it's called the investigative new drug application stage. They have to go to the FDA with their preclinical data, how they're going to manufacture the drug, plans for the human trials. If they get through the IND stage, then the party starts and the phase 1 trial begins. And they're testing on patients. Usually there's, in that phase 1 trial, 20 to 80 patients are in the trial. Safety, dosages, side effects, things like that. The trial usually takes a year. If it succeeds, it goes to phase 2 trial, where they crank it up, 40 to 300 patients that absolutely have the condition that the drug or the therapeutic is trying to address. And that could take 1 or 2 years, phase 2. If it does well there, it goes to phase 3, where side effects and comparisons to other treatments in the market occur. And you can see the size of the patients in phase 3. So before a drug comes to market, it needs to go through each one of these phases, and a significant amount of capital is required to support the process. Some of the capital comes from grants. Some of the capital comes from foundations, angel investors, venture capital, corporate funders. I'll speak to that in a minute, and others. So now I lead an investment group. We invest in this high risk biotech drug discovery system, and we've learned something that many of you are aware of. But many large, because our objective is to invest in the drug, and then ultimately that drug is sold to somebody and we make money. So many large pharmaceuticals companies are seeking access to acquiring drugs that are being developed at universities, Tulane, LSU Health, in labs, working with the New Orleans Bioinnovation Center. A lot of these therapies are being developed, and large pharmaceuticals companies are looking to these to see what they're working on. And in many cases, the universities or the labs are serving as surrogate research and development departments for the big pharmaceuticals companies. So they're out looking. Well, in bullet point 2, many drug discovery founders are trying to sell their drugs. And they're developing and they're seeking an early sale of their assets. Interestingly, many of the founders of therapeutic and drug companies don't wish to start a company. They don't want to hire a sales team. They don't want to get a facility. What they really want to do is develop the drug and sell it to a big pharmaceutical company, which is counterintuitive. But we see many, many brilliant people at the university level who are developing these drugs who have no clue about business. And they don't really care because they want somebody else to take the drug and run with it. So more often than not, they want to sell the drug to a larger company. And oftentimes, though, where this becomes very interesting, when one of these is acquired, it's for hundreds of millions of dollars. They're really, really, really big deals. Not many of these make it all the way through all the phases. Those that do, big pharma is looking at it. And there are conferences all over the world where the people developing these and the pharmaceuticals companies are coming together and they're trying to do business. And at times, these meetings, the outcome is a sale, and that means an exit for the investor. And what's interesting is oftentimes the sale occurs after phase 2, more so than any. Sometimes after phase 1, certainly after phase 3, if they're successful. But what we do then as investors is as we look at drug discovery opportunities in biotech, we're looking at each of those earlier phases, the investigative new drug phase 1 or phase 2 stages. So if somebody developing these, an entrepreneur, a team, is developing these and they come to us, we want to make sure they're in those phases. Anything earlier, we usually don't want to get involved with because it's too risky. They must have a credible founding team, a credible lead investor, and we're a follow-on investor. We won't be the first investor in one of these kinds of deals. And very, very strong guidance from advisors in terms of the FDA approval process. Those coming out of universities oftentimes have professors involved in the project. There's one example I wanted to share with you. There's a drug here that's being developed by 2 doctors out of Ochsner Hospital. It's called South Rampart Pharmaceuticals. They're New Orleans based. They're developing a painkiller that is non-opioid, non-addictive, as opposed to Percocet or OxyContin. And they're developing this drug. And they just came out of phase 1, again, pretty early in the process, phase 1. And they're raising money to fund phase 2. Well, they came to us. And the lead investor, interestingly, was Ochsner Hospital. You may not know this, but Ochsner has a venture capital fund that invests in these kinds of opportunities. So they're also looking early to see if they can get in something that can make a difference. So they came to us, and we spent a lot of time with Ochsner. We learned about all of their due diligence, the time they spent. We spent time with the doctors involved. We spent time with a number of doctors around the country, speaking with them about whether they thought that this drug would work. Because again, it was only after phase 1. So it's going through phase 2 trials now, and we funded it. So we invested in it. So we are in the South Rampart Pharmaceuticals deal. We put actually quite a bit of money in it. And we're in with Ochsner, and some other investors from around the country are coming in to fund that. So that was a process that relates to this, sorry, wait a minute. Sorry about that, Kwame. Uh-oh. Who did I steal? Anyway, that's it. You got it. All right, stop. Yeah. We stay next to me in case I screw it up again. All right. I hit the reverse rather than the. Keep going. We'll see which one I was, and then people can say stop. No, keep going. All right, stop. That's good. All right, thanks. Okay. Yep. Okay. So we got in South Rampart, and we're very excited about it. The company is completing its financing, and it's going to be it's getting into and beginning its phase 2 trial. If that phase 2 trial occurs, it'll start soon, get into it heavily through the year, and it likely will be over by the end of the year. And everything is pointing to a very successful trial, which from our perspective, that might mean that some big pharmaceuticals company may make a run at it at the end of this year or early next year. So that would be very exciting. And it would be exciting for New Orleans that a company like that is acquired by a big pharmaceuticals company. It would be great for Ochsner and LSU Health work. These guys, some of them came out of LSU Health. Now, so you might say, well, Mike, what did you guys do? What did you all do as you assessed it? Well, we evaluated the efficacy of the drug at the stage at phase 1, and we identified what still needed to be learned by the company. We assessed the market need. Is there a need for non-steroid medication, like off the charts? In fact, the government is now creating incentives to these kinds of companies to cause the healthcare system to get away from utilizing opioid-driven real super stuff. One just was introduced by another pharmaceuticals company, but we're not worried about that because we think an entire category will open up. We wanted to learn about how this company, South Rampart, was dealing with the FDA regulatory process and how they were doing, what their strategy was. We also spent time trying to learn about their patents, their intellectual property. We spent quite a bit of time on that. We asked them if they were planning to become an operating company or not. And right now, I don't think they are. So, because if they were planning to become an operating company, we would ask, like, what's your go-to-market strategy? What's your manufacturing plan? Where are you going to get it manufactured? Where are you going to get the product? All of that. How are you going to finance it? Another thing that's very interesting that we need to probe when we're exploring an opportunity like this is Medicare. Will Medicare, Medicaid cover the payments and reimburse people for it? If Medicare likely wouldn't, it's probably not going to do very well or sell very much. But we're fortunate to hear yes, and then we assess the risks. So these are the things that investors look for when they're looking at that kind of an opportunity in biotech. It's heavily involved, it's intense, and we put that South Rampart through this, and we invested. So now I'd like to talk about another company that's close to home that we invested in the biotech arena, and it's called Obatala Sciences. And unbeknown to me, the speaker following me is the CEO of Obatala. So hopefully discussions will dovetail. But Obatala is it's not a drug discovery company. It's a different kind of company in biotech. It specializes in tools and services for researching into metabolic diseases, obesity, diabetes, and cancer. In this case, it was originated at Tulane. The founders were a professor and a PhD, and the CEO is Trivia Frazier. Here's what we did as we assessed Obatala Sciences. We visited the lab. Trivia, you may not even know we did all this. We visited the lab. We spoke with all the users in the market. We spoke with Obatala's partners. We studied their intellectual property. Could be patents, trademarks, know-how, trade secrets. We studied the need and size of the market, understood the market, spoke with customers and potential customers. We analyzed the competition, and we identified Obatala's competitive advantages and disadvantages. We studied the management, the team, the board, the advisors, did a lot of homework on them, studied the financials. We spoke with the people who had already invested in the company. We assessed the exit opportunities because that's the only way that we make money. We reviewed the deal terms and we identified the risks. And after all that, we invested, and we're in the process of putting our second investment into Obatala Sciences because we have some confidence in the company, and it's also a New Orleans-based company, which is thrilling. So now I want to shift gears because there may be some of you in the room, and I was asked to do this, who may not be involved with biotech, but who may have, you might be entrepreneurs, and you might be thinking about starting a company or thinking about raising capital. And I wanted to briefly walk through what we generally look for in an opportunity when it comes to us. And by the way, we receive 40 to 50 investment opportunities a month. I looked this morning, today is the 24th, and we received 38 opportunities already. So we really spend a lot of time looking at and assessing opportunities. But this was 25 to 30 once we get through the first pass, because we get some crazy investment opportunities. So now we whittle them down, and this is what we do with those. We pre-screen, screen them and bring them to our members. And we poll our members if they like an opportunity, and then we go into due diligence. And here's what our we have 6 due diligence teams. One is we study the organization, the culture, the management. We do interviews, we do references. If there are any employee contracts. We study the market, the size of the potential market, the trends, the customers, the go-to-market strategies, pricing, competition, and partners. We also study the product, manufacturing, supply chains, hardware, software, product roadmaps. If there are apps or other kinds of products like that, we have people who understand all of that. And we also study the patents. We'll go through the financials heavily. Some of the companies that come to us are very, very early, and they're not adroit at creating financials. We help them. We help them think through that and improve their financial modeling. We look at all the legal documents, the deal documents. Is when an investment is made, there's deal documents involved, and we negotiate the deal terms. And we leverage the collective knowledge of our members. Like, interestingly, when we look at a healthcare deal, we have 21 doctors in our group. And many of them will be familiar with the topic of the company we're looking at. And if they don't, they know somebody. So we're able to leverage our network into bringing knowledge and informed thinking about an opportunity. So those are my comments. So we have capital. We like to invest it. We love to invest it locally if the opportunities arise. There are two that we have that I noted tonight. We put the companies through a pretty intense series of due diligence steps. Reason being, we write the checks ourselves. So I write the checks. Okay. I have a portfolio of 52 companies that I've invested in, and I'm just praying that some of them do well. So we really spend a lot of time conducting our due diligence. So I wanted you to be aware of that from the investor's perspective, and then also what we look at on the biotech side. So if there are any questions, yes. She's going to bring you a mic.
Yes. Just recently, National News, they had discovered a cure for this particular disease, sickle cell anemia. They found a cure to that particular disease. For South Gulf, the company that you represent, are you guys instrumental in that type of breakthrough as well?
Oh, absolutely. If there's a leading edge drug in development for sickle cell, yes, for sure, sickle cell anemia, absolutely. But we'd have to run it through the same process as these others that I mentioned. Yes.
Well, thank you. So something that I've witnessed in the 30 years that I've been in the industry is that everybody wants a drug that differentiates from the rest, and sometimes that takes you to new mode of actions or biological targets that have not been validated. And that's a conundrum. They have not been validated because nobody has tried, but big pharma wants lower risk. So when it comes down to how innovative a potential asset is, how do you walk the balance between being very innovative and also being an area where nobody has taken it?
Yes, I understand. We bring our doctors in for that, as they or some people they know will likely understand that drug you're speaking to, and or know people upstream at the universities or labs or where it's been developed, and they have conversations with them, and we call it scalability, and how can that drug scale beyond the initial indicator it's addressing. I mean, that's what we would do.
Okay.
Yeah. There's two. Yeah.
Dr. Tia Lyles Williams, I just wanted to piggyback on that as an innovator. So yes, big pharma tends to be a little bit risk averse and goes with the market and basically who's going to pay for it. If nobody's going to pay for it, they're not going to do it, right? But you have some innovative companies such as Jazz Pharmaceuticals, which is a completely virtual biotech company I used to work for in Philly, and other startups alike that are willing to take that risk. Jazz bread and butter business model is taking assets that nobody wants to deal with, that nobody is looking at, and they take it and they develop it themselves with outside partners. They outsource everything, take it to market. Or if you're an innovator such as a startup, then it's on you to kind of figure out what avenue you want to go down. To answer your question, I don't know anybody to cure for sickle cell, but there is a new novel treatment by Dr. Ted Love, African-American doctor, that did a huge exit with, I don't know, it was Pfizer or AstraZeneca, but that is now on the market. His company is called Global Blood Therapeutics. So that's the latest drug on the market, just educating.
Others? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. How early in the IND would you like to get a project?
How
early during the IND stages?
It varies by project. Okay, and we spend time with the team, and we get our doctors will get a very good handle or sense of the likelihood of a positive opportunity. So pretty early.
Thank you so much. First of all, Diana Holmes with JP Morgan Chase. The information you shared in regards to the due diligence, that is valuable information that could cost an entrepreneur a lot of money to do that themselves. When you're going through your due diligence process, and let's say an entrepreneur is not quite ready, right? That may be the one you pass on. Do you share those findings with them? And if you do you also connect them to resources that can help them close that gap or address a deficiency?
Okay, so you had about 5 questions in there, but I think I can get them. Oftentimes, companies that really aren't ready for the angel investor stage come to us. And what we'll do is, after we meet with them, we'll provide them guidance on areas on which they should focus as they develop their business plan. But we will also recommend that they go to Idea Village, for example. And there may be a program at the Idea Village, or a program at UNO or Tulane, or one here, where they can gain certain experiences or develop their business model moving forward. Sometimes what we do is we connect them with advisors, people who we know that space, know that market, and who can bring them knowledge. And then we say, when you gain that, come on back and see us again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, that becomes very important, as angel investors are value-added capital. We're not just investing and then forgetting about you. So we'll help you get there as best we can.
Hi. For some of the smaller pharmaceutical companies that you were talking about that hold assets but don't necessarily want to go into manufacturing, at what stage are they typically acquired by a larger company? Is that during preclinical trials or is that during clinical trials?
Well, based on our experience, it's clinical, during the clinicals, and then different there. As you know, then there are different kinds of pharmaceuticals companies, large, multi-brand, very specialized, and you might find the right one who might be interested in yours. And that's where those conferences come in, where they are just shopping. It's like going to the Casbah in Marrakesh, and they are there, and she knows what I'm talking about, and I would say that you should look into that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Got one here.
Raise your hand.
Hi, I'm Ebenezer Yanway, founder of ERBD and Xavier Student. I was wondering what your insights could be on how Gulf South Angels evaluates tech solutions instead of pharmaceutical solutions.
Can you say that again? I didn't quite hear it.
How does Gulf South Angels investigate or look into tech solutions in healthcare IT versus pharmaceuticals, or is the process the same?
We look at healthcare IT just as much, in a very similar fashion. We've invested in a number of healthcare IT deals related to managing insurance information, connecting patients and doctors and pharmacies and the insurance, the payers. And then we've also invested in a number of medical device companies. I could speak for another half hour on the different kinds of devices we've supported that are taking operating room procedures to another level. Yeah, but it's basically the same process.
Okay, thank you.
And many of those medical devices must incur a similar process to what a drug does in terms of going through the FDA. Not identical, but a process. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, my question was kind of similar to medical devices too. Like you said, it's not as stringent as drugs in the FDA process, but do you evaluate companies similarly in I guess like have they like performed the adequate like FDA approval tests, or like yeah, I guess how do you evaluate device companies for as you're making your investments?
Very similar. many of them will come out of labs at universities or labs. Some come out of some people's basements, and as they're developing the product, somehow they find us, or a lead investor finds us, and then we'll get in and spend time with them. And I mean, we've invested in one that improves spine surgeries, and it's a certain kind of device. This one happened to come out of Johns Hopkins University. Well, we got our doctors on it, and we flew some people out there and spent some time with them, and then we spent a month speaking with spine surgeons all over the country through our connections, and we became comfortable with it. And what it needed to do, however, was incur obtaining an approval that the FDA provides related to medical devices. It's called a 510K. You may be familiar with that. Well, we wanted to make sure it got its 510K. And the minute it did, we invested in it. And about 13 months after we invested in it, a giant global medical device company acquired it. And now, and what they're doing now is they're leveraging their global marketing machine to sell it all over the world. So that was a win-win for the people out of Johns Hopkins and a win-win for the people at the medical company, because the people at Johns Hopkins had a great patent portfolio and nobody was going to get at that. So that was a win-win. Yeah.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for that peek behind the curtain. My questions are, do you all have an average check size? Do you have a website where entrepreneurs can send in their ideas, or is there a referral process?
You can go to our website. I'll answer the second one first. You can go to our website, gulfsouthangels.org. There's a link to an application. You fill the application, comes to us. We look at all of those, and then those in which we're interested will follow up with you. And so we're working through those large numbers we get on a monthly basis. Our checks range from about 200,000 to about $1 million. And the average isn't in between that. It's probably about 400,000. But I'm not sure if I can disclose it now, but we put significantly more than that into South Rampart Pharma. Yeah.
Okay.
All
How
right.
about a round of applause for Mike Eckert?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. As I stand before you guys, my name is Chris Khalil. I'm the executive director of the New Orleans Bioinnovation Center. As I stand here, I'm filled with enormous gratitude. I want to take a moment of personal privilege to thank Mike Eckert, who comes by the way of the Midwest, the Weather Channel, Pathfire, and then from Atlanta, he dropped down to New Orleans. And Mike didn't have to do this. Mike had his career already made as CEO of Weather Channel. And because of his family and because of his ties here to New Orleans, he decided to put a lot of work in to develop the Gulf South Angels Group, formerly known as the New Orleans Angel Network. And these folks are, yes, they're writing personal checks into early stage companies, taking a lot of risk. But what Mike has done personally is he has educated over 135 people on how to directly invest in life science companies and in biotech companies. So he's taken a market that's used to real estate investing, oil and gas investing, and he's teaching folks how to evaluate biotech companies. And I want to thank him personally for doing that for our market here in New Orleans. So thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Chris. I didn't know I really did that, but thank you.
I also have a few other people to thank. I want to thank my team for putting this program together. I want to thank our caterers, Kitchen Creations. If you haven't had a chance yet to go get some lovely food, please do. And then without further ado, I want to thank and introduce our leader of the next session in Fireside Chat. And so I've had the privilege of working with Dr. Trivia Frazier for a number of years now. And she's an amazing person, and I can't thank you enough for being here to support this program and to support all of the activities at the New Orleans Bioinnovation Center. But before we get started, I want to thank probably the most important entity here, and that is JP Morgan Chase. JP Morgan Chase, thank you very much for your sponsorship of our program here at the Bioinnovation Center and at Xavier. All right, so without further ado, I want to tell you a little bit about Dr. Frazier. So Dr. Frazier, she's a distinguished scientist from our community, and in the biomedical research community, she's extremely well known. But did you know that her specialty is in adipose tissue-derived stromal stem cells, and she is taken all the way to becoming CEO of Obatala Sciences. So she, along with several others, have been huge supporters of our organization, the New Orleans Bioinnovation Center. But Dr. Frazier is so much more than that. She's an inspiration to our community, and she inspires me to do much, much more than what we wake up to collect the check for. So, you know, beyond the, I want to say 9 to 5, but no one in startups works an actual 9 to 5. So she's out there sitting on boards. She's out there working with the next generation of entrepreneurs, and she's here spending our time with us this evening. Dr. Frazier holds a dual degree in physics and biomedical engineering from Tulane and Dillard. She also has a PhD in biomedical engineering from Tulane University School of Medicine, and then most recently earned her MBA from Tulane's Freeman School of Business. So she's a 3-time Tulane grad, a Dillard grad. She's worked at Pennington Biomedical Research Center, and now she sits here as a board member of Tulane University. So how about that? One round of applause for Dr. Frazier. But on top of all of that, she's a super mom times 3, and she is now the newest community member of the St. Aug Purple Knights. So congrats again to you for that. But her leadership, as I mentioned, it extends beyond the boardroom, and it extends beyond advancing tissue science. So please join me in welcoming to the stage our interviewer tonight, Dr. Trivia Frazier.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you so very much. It's such a pleasure to be here today and to introduce our person of the hour, keynote speaker, Dr. Tia Lyles-Williams. It's such an honor to welcome Dr. Tia to New Orleans in this context, and also to Xavier. And for NOEW during this fabulous week that we have. So it's great to see we have a mixed audience. I'm looking forward to this conversation. Dr. Tia is making her mark on the biomanufacturing industry in Philadelphia. It is her mission to lower the costs of biotherapeutics and accelerate new drugs into the commercial market, while also jobs to people, careers to people from underserved communities. Dr. Tia is the founder and CEO of Lucas Pi Bio, a contract development manufacturing organization, and Heliplex, the first commercial life science co-working space with a built-in accelerator for seed-level life science startups. With over 2 decades of experience in biotechnology and biopharmaceutical sectors, Dr. Tia has dedicated her career to bioprocessing biologics, developing large-scale facilities, and commercializing biological assets. Dr. Tia's impressive academic background includes degrees from Howard University, Full Sail University, and the University of Southern California. Her groundbreaking work has earned her numerous accolades, including being named a unicorn by magazine, a Forbes 1000 honoree in 2021, and one of Inc. magazine's Female Founders 100 in 2020. Let's welcome Dr. Tia to the stage.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay. So I'm so thrilled to have a nice conversation with you, Dr. Tia. And again, after seeing that you are literally building the ecosystem in Philadelphia, you're contributing to the biotechnology growth, as an industry leader. And so tonight, what I'd love to do is explore the future of biotechnology with you. But start off with, some of the questions that I'm sure many of the students in the audience may have, many of the individuals who are founders themselves, your background.
Yes. Well, first, thank you guys for having me here. It's a true honor. I love speaking to students and going around the colleges, but most especially going to HBCUs as a fellow HBCU grad. So thank you for having me here.
Whoop, whoop.
So, like many of you, I'll just give a fast background. Born in Gary, Indiana, raised in Houston, Texas. So I'm very familiar with the Louisiana, Texas conjunction. I went to high school in Atlanta, particularly Marietta, Georgia, and then I went off to school at Howard University, majored in biology, graduated. During that time, while I was in school, like so many of you, I did a lot of internships. So I did a stint at NIH. I did a stint at Walter Reed Army Institute of Research, returned into my first job as I crossed the stage at Howard. And then I got into my first biotech company, which was Human Genome Sciences at the time, which is now GSK in Rockville, Maryland. And then I went to work for many others. So Amgen, Baxter Bioscience, which is now Takeda, excuse me, Jazz Pharmaceuticals, Avid Bioservices, Lonza. So I've been around between Maryland all the way out to LA in the Thousand Oaks area to Amgen and Baxter Bioscience, Orange County part of LA to Avid Bioservices, and then I cut back to the East Coast and worked at Lonza for a year and then at Jazz Pharmaceuticals in Philadelphia. So a lot going on prior to me starting my career as an entrepreneur. Learned a lot, followed a lot, wrote a lot of notes. The Spook That Sat by the Door, if y'all heard that book, that was me. So they didn't realize all the notes I was taking to prepare myself for that moment to step out. And then when COVID came, I had no choice. The contract job I had at Jazz had already ended in October 2019. And I said, you know what, I'm going to focus on my own thing. And then COVID hit. So it kind of was unfortunately, a good time for me to get started.
Yeah, speaking about challenges, what were some of the biggest challenges for you, when you founded Lucas Pie?
Yeah, so we still building Lucas Pie. Oh, look at me. I'm doing what he did. All right, so we're still building Lucas Pie. It'll be a 60,000 square foot manufacturing facility in a predominantly black neighborhood in Philadelphia. The land has to be remediated. Unfortunately, it was a dumping ground before it became illegal, so we're still going through that. To date, we've raised a little bit over 2.5 million. We squeezed out 350,000 for that project last year. So it's been an uphill battle. A lot of people still ask me, am I still building it? Because we've been building this thing since 2018. We tried to do a brownfield, which is like renovating a building to be the outfit of the facility. That didn't work out. Luckily, I got some land on reservation with the city. I work a lot with Governor Shapiro. Some of you probably heard of him when he was thinking about running. Thank God he didn't. And so most of that 2.5 million came from the state of PA, in addition to me putting my own money and continuously putting my own money in. The other part that we get a lot of uproar about is how you're going to do this thing, how are you going to hire these people and pay them a living wage? Well, the good thing is I'm not greedy. So I wasn't born rich. I don't come from a lot of money, but I know what it takes to have a living wage and have experienced it from all the different places that I lived at. And then last but not least is how are you going to get those customers? So Heliplex was developed to have that pipeline of customers. We are just now kicking off our first cohort for our accelerator program called Hive Bio. So I'm excited about that. It'll be 10 companies going through that program. We have 9 that are minority owned. I think about 7 of them are woman owned. And then it goes down from there. And so they're all ironically things that some of those things that adversely affect diseases or different things that adversely affect underrepresented communities, excuse me. So we're really excited about that piece.
Fantastic. I know some folks are taking some notes about the accelerator program. Fantastic in terms of the demographics there. Something that you just spoke about, with the demographic makeup of the companies that you're helping. As you look across with the opportunities that are there, especially considering some of the things Kwame spoke about some of the things that we are faced with in our community with the health disparities.
Yes.
Do you see any opportunities right now, in biotech to leverage technology
Yeah.
to
Well,
address
look,
that?
you're involved in it. Kwame is involved in it. As I put this accelerator program together, that's one of the conversations that we kept coming across. One of the startups that got in has a novel kind of, I guess you call it, medical device technology for healing the foot ulcers of diabetics. And so when we were going back and forth on whether or not to accept that company in, because some of the selection committee were just like Eckhart. They're angel investors, venture capitalists looking at this and doing due diligence from the top. And one of their concerns is, how do you do the clinical trial? How do we get people to adhere and stick to the program to get the results we needed that are required for you to get across the line of FDA and get it to market, right? And one of the things that I brought up to them, I was like, well, this adversely affects underrepresented communities. Obviously, there's a need for this, right? Same for the country of Africa, different story, but same thing, because Big Pharma keeps saying there's not a viable market in Africa. Well, we know most of our drugs, especially in HIV and AIDS, came off the backs of Africans, right, to get where we are today. And so my argument was that it's time for us to be innovative, right? We've done enough to be consumers of the insurance here in America. We've done enough to be major consumers of medical solutions, right? When the drugs are ready, when the devices are ready. And now it's time for us to get on that ownership side, right? Because if we don't get on the ownership side, then the investors don't necessarily see a pathway forward because it doesn't affect them. So I give an example, like the gentleman in the back brought up Dr. Ted Love with Global Blood Therapeutics. This is a guy, he's from Alabama, if you didn't know. From Alabama, no, didn't come from money. Ended up going to medical school. I think he's been here, he grad. Okay, I forgot where he went undergrad. And then after all of that of his years as a cardiovascular doctor, he became an executive at Genentech, which is one of the first biotech companies in the commercial market based in South San Francisco, California, another underrepresented community. And even with all his accolades, it took him, I want to say 20 years to do an exit almost, because his drug treated sickle cell. It took a bidding war 20 years later for him to do that $7-8 billion exit, all because he had to stay steadfast to who his team was and consistently present how they were going to enter the market, who was going to pay for it, yada, yada, yada. Because folks that don't understand the disease or see or understand how it can make money, since it affects a population that they deem have no money to buy it, he had to be really creative. No matter him being African American, no matter how many Caucasian executives he had on his team, it still took 20 years to do this exit, when it takes some of our PWI universities to build these technologies, and they do that same exit within 6 to 7 years, sometimes 5. Spark Therapeutic, I think, did it in about 6, 7. That's the first gene therapy to get in the market based in Philadelphia. So right now, if you're thinking about getting into this game, take it seriously. This is not an industry to take a back seat because you don't get into med school. It's an industry to say, hey, if you want to do something different, if you want to be something other than a medical practitioner, right? Give you some background. The people that do the drug discovery, whether they're in a lab or on a manufacturing floor, we're the ones that write out the instructions on how to use it. What's the appropriate dosage? We tell the doctors what to do. No disrespect to the doctors. Okay, that comes before they even see it, before they even see it in clinical trials. So this is not an arbitrary industry as a, oh, let me just take a seat. I don't feel like going to med school, girl. Let me go ahead and read this book, get in this lab. No, it's very competitive. And right now we're at a pivotal point in our respective communities to be owners of this, so we can teach the masses how to get our drugs to market and what are some of the innovative ways we can help our communities be able to pay for it.
That's right. Those therapies have to come from somewhere.
Yes, and we have to collaborate. So I'll be talking to some of you after this.
And speaking about that, that's a great segue. Any pointers, again, having the mixture, the audience members here, students, interns, some that are just starting their businesses. Any pointers that you have for them?
I would say if you haven't participated in the accelerator program, please do. If you need help with funding, there's a company called Turbo SBIR. So they help you get your phase 1 and 2 funding from either the National Science Foundation or the National Institutes of Health. They're a bit expensive, but when you win that first, pitch competition check of $5 grand or $10 grand, put some of that money aside to pay for that service. When it comes to underrepresented founders in biotech, the litmus test is whether or not you get that phase 1 funding from NIH or the national or NSF, National Science Foundation. If you're able to do that, you're more likely to get a chance in investment from angel investors. If you get an investment from angel investors, and as you initiate your phase 1 clinical trials, angel investors typically pay for like the latter end of preclinical. And the reason why I say that is because right now, even for a phase 1 clinical trial, it's going to cost you around 15, 20, maybe $30 million. Okay, because of the manufacturing costs of that drug, and it depends on the size of the drug, whether it's a small molecule or a large molecule. And I'm speaking for large molecules. It's going to cost you around 15, 20, maybe 30 million to get through phase 1. But once you get that data back, now you have an opportunity for venture capitalists who write larger checks, okay, to get through what we call the valley of death. I don't think I have it up here. No, I don't. I got all my stuff up here. Anyway, that gets you through the valley of death. But anyway, you want to go through the accelerator program to meet investors, to go to different conferences such as the Bio International Convention. You want to get your name around town so you build relationships with the local government entities, because FDA is a federal entity. You want to make sure you're in a community that has some connections to get you through, again, that valley of death and working with FDA. And then last but not least, you want to meet like-minded people. So entrepreneurship, agnostic, whatever industry, but especially in biotech, can be very lonely. I still get family members ask me, what do I do every day? What do I do with my time? I get some family members that think I'm rich. That $2.5 million is in an account with the state until we're ready to use it, because it has to be spent on specific costs. It's not in my pocket. So you will be broke majority of the journey, especially as an underrepresented founder. But again, there are different opportunities with accelerators, pitch competitions, all that stuff that help you kind of steady yourself. And then last but not least, again, you want a community of people, like-minded people that understand what you're going through, that can pull you when you feel like you can't go no more.
Fantastic advice, because this is such a tedious struggle, a journey. There are highs and there are lows that can happen all in the same day. That can happen within a matter of hours. That's a part of the journey. Fantastic sound advice, and great during the middle of New Orleans Entrepreneurship Week. And so, we have entities like Idea Village, Village X. We have a number of entities around the city. New Orleans Bioinnovation Center, I'll plug for locally, does have a number of resources that we have leveraged at Obatala, that many do leverage. Another thing that you spoke on, I want to touch on it just a little bit, get your thoughts for the audience. You spoke about the litmus test with funding.
Mm-hmm.
And how that federal funding can really be a support, an anchor, if you will,
Yes.
right? That validates, de-risks in some way, shape, or form.
Yep.
What other sources of funding should people be thinking about? Because you mentioned the networking, you mentioned participating in these accelerator programs. What's the benefit of that?
The benefit of accelerator programs is that you get to meet different funders, whether they're private, such as angel investors or venture capital firms, or even get involved in different pitch competitions. Sometimes the accelerator will pay that fee for you guys to participate, or they might pay to travel to go to that conference, or the accelerator have the opportunity to compete. All of that is important. Again, I don't come from money. So when I started out, and I'm still raising money, for us, we have the Pennsylvania Biotech Center, very similar to New Orleans. I was in these folks' face every day. If I wasn't in their face every day, I was in their email every day. Whatever I needed, I was going to ask for. You cannot be shy to ask for help, including asking for money when that time comes. You got to do it the right way, of course, and be prepared with your documentation for due diligence. But you can't be afraid to ask for help. This is not a journey for you to do by yourself. Yes, we know tech people do the solopreneurs, and y'all can code, and y'all are great. But when it comes to hard assets in biotech for medical devices and drugs, you cannot do it by yourself. Everybody has a lane. Everybody has a role, which I'm sure Dr. Trivia can relate to. And you have to be cognizant to stick to that and let the experts do their work. So for me, my background is mostly drug manufacturing and regulatory. So knowing how to get the product to market. Hence, that's why I went into the industry of doing a CDMO so I can make drugs on contract for startups. Now, since then, I've got myself into a little pickle with Jackson Taylor Therapeutics. We're building a genomic software program to ID genetic variants in underrepresented communities. Now, me, I like to do stuff that is out of a necessity. JT came about as a way for me to, my father passed. So it came out as a way so nobody would have to go through that again of being with a doctor, a team of doctors, and never knowing what's going on with you or not having an answer. And we found that out the hard way. He was in the ground for at least 2 weeks. We're still getting doctors calling, asking, is he coming to an appointment? Y'all looking at me like I'm crazy. This is real life for underrepresented community members. And everybody's saying the same thing. Oh, we told him to exercise. He had been diagnosed with diabetes for probably the last 10 years of his life. But when I got the death certificate, which no autopsy was done because he passed in his sleep at home. So if that's the case and it looks like no foul play, then you got to pay that autopsy out of pocket, which is upwards close to $20,000 in some states. So it's between 15 to 20. We didn't have that money. So, but when they got the diagnosis on the death certificate for diastolic heart failure, if any of my doctors know what that is, exercise is not the treatment. He couldn't walk from here to that chair without getting out of breath. And every doctor that called said he needed to exercise. Exactly. That's how I was looking. So I said, what can I do? What can I do on my part? Well, we're going to build out a depot of genetic variants. Now, I hate the word variant, and I'm sure you guys are familiar with genetics and variant. But what's happening is, as people are getting into this, Big Pharma has started about 3-4 years ago buying out the blood banks of HBCUs. To my knowledge, no one has sold. Okay, there's rumor going around that Howard, my school, retarded and stuck up. So supposedly they did some under table deal with a big pharma company, but we don't have no proof of that. Nothing's been released. But everybody else has said no. So that's why you see Morehouse with a genomics center. Meharry is building one. Charles Drew Medical School out in LA is building one. We're getting there, but we're not quite there yet. But again, this is why you got to get on the ownership side of things and really think about the market as far as what is actually needed and how we can be innovative, again, to get these products to the people that matter to us most, which is our community members.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think we're going to open up the floor.
Yes.
To questions. Anyone has questions for Dr. Tia?
And y'all can ask me questions that y'all don't get a chance to answer. I mean, ask Mr. Eckhart as well.
Hello, I'm Ebenezer Yenway, founder of ERBD and Xavier student. Once again, you mentioned SBIR funding and using Turbo SBIR with your first pitch competition check, and I am looking into that currently. But I was looking at the news and the resources lately, and they're saying that certain words like diversity, equity, and inclusion are, targeted now, meaning that if you mention them in your grant, you may not receive that funding. I was wondering if you could lend any insight into how true that is and how you can navigate or work around that if you are working on a company that looks into healthcare diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Very good question. Right now, supposedly nobody has been denied. Things are being slowed down as far as the review process. I'm undergoing a review process for Jackson Taylor right now myself. I just submitted mine. And then on the other side of it, that's what Turbo SBIR does. They actually help you with the language. They actually write the grant for you. So they wrote everything out for me, changed certain words that I had in there to make sure that it met certain requirements under this current administration, right? But that's what you have the grant writer for. But nothing has been turned away just yet. It's been slowed down. And then what I've also received information on is that as long as it's not solely for underrepresented community members, which we know most of the stuff we come at is not only for underrepresented communities, just happen to be discovered by an underrepresented founder. So that's how we were able to turn some of the wording around and kind of maneuver some of that stuff for the current administration.
So, when we are talking about a startup company or we have something in mind and we want to start a company and go forward with it, but then what kind of investment are we going to be thinking of when we look at startup company? Because going to a investor, angel investor or anyone, we need to have some data, some preliminary results or something like that to go and talk to them. But then when you need money to even create that, so how do you go about working on that?
Great question. So if you're doing research while you're under the purview of a university, you're probably in the best situation possible because of the lab and different equipment and different resources that you had. That's up to you to talk to the deans and all that administration to figure out how you can use that lab and collaborate and build something. That's the first part. To go to an angel investor, yes, you are correct. You need preclinical data. There's data that you generate at the bench to show that this thing is even halfway working, whatever that particular product is. Once you get that part, you also have enough to, before you go to the angel investor, that's when you apply for your phase 1 SBIR or STTR, which the STTR is through the university system. They give anywhere, I think they increased it. It used to be a max of 250. Now I'm hearing that they increased it to like 400. Okay, I don't know how long that's gonna last under this new administration. That's just what I've been told, right? That it eventually went up to 400K. Then you can go back again and apply for phase 2 funding under that same thing, SBIR, STTR. It used to be a max of 750K. Now is a minimum of 750K, meaning they've been funding upwards of 2.5 million on some of these folks that are coming out of these university systems with these novel products. And then you can also go back for phase 3 funding and still in the millions. But at that point, you probably can go to an angel investor and get a check between 500,000 to 1.5 million. And then after that, right, once you file the IND and you have things ready to go, it's very similar for device. There are some shortcuts in both device and drugs that can fast track. It just depends on the disease or the thing that you're trying to figure out and treat. But anyway, when you go to a venture capitalist, that's where you get the double digits, triple digits, millions of dollars type of checks. At that point, though, you're probably in what we call the valley of death, meaning you're probably already past phase 1. You're somewhere between phase 2 and phase 3, are really trying to narrow down exactly what your product can and cannot do, and then also narrowing down or confirming, if you haven't at that point, which disease does it best treat. Because sometimes people have one product that can do multiple things, but by the time you get to phase 1 and phase 2, you really have to know which one is going to give the most bang for the buck, which one the insurance companies are willing to cover, because they may not be willing to cover it for everything, and then actually have a plan to get into market. Does that answer your question? And I sent the presentation to Ms. Gina to hand out to you guys, so it kind of puts in an illustrative form what Eckhart explained to you guys, and really gives you the nitty gritty details of the different steps of commercialization, whether it's a drug or a device.
How you doing? I wanted to ask, where do you usually find the companies that you invest in?
Whew. Well, the High Bio Accelerator is the first time we're doing it, and so we were able to get a check from the Knight Foundation for $250,000 to have that thing become operative and to graduate the first class within the first 12 months. Me personally, if you could tell, I'm a nerd, so I kind of know what works, what don't work. I'm always studying the market to see what big pharma's interested in, more importantly, what the payers are interested in. That's kind of how I work with it, and I have invested in some things outside of biotech as well, but that was mostly because I probably went through an accelerator program with those particular tech startups, so I knew it in and out and felt comfortable investing. And it's been crowdfunding invest. I'm not writing big checks like Eckhart.
Hi, yeah, sorry. This is like a
Actually,
entrepreneurship academy over here, and we're just trying to figure out how you are continually finding these entrepreneurs of color in your ecosystem, and like what legwork are you doing to make that as intentional as it clearly is.
Well, if you don't have one, I suggest you guys get a LinkedIn profile. It is everything for entrepreneurs. It is also everything to become employed somewhere, especially in the biotech space. But that's how I normally look. Again, some of these companies come to me and I take a look at them. They're giving to me word of mouth. But the accelerator program, majority, ironically, of those companies, I was already mentoring for the past few years. And so they had already made some money with my advice. And so I was happy that they decided to officially join the accelerator to raise additional funding, but also the university system. So I know HBCUs, we're not as well abreast in the startup world. I am actively working on that. All those schools I named, I probably have some type of connection where I've been building a relationship with them to help them understand what the market is, what are the needs from an academic perspective, to get you guys ready for that industry, whether you want to be an entrepreneur or an employee. And then also and letting them know the results of some of these other schools. So Spark Therapeutics that I mentioned before was a rollout of University of Penn. There's a lot of other ones up that way on the East Coast that's doing the same thing. So it's about the university's risk appetite for risk to do that type of. A lot of us, though, as far as underrepresented founders, are doing the startup and biotech outside, unfortunately, outside of the university system. Yes.
It is to kind of stay on top of industry trends. Do you have any specific resources that you recommend for doing that?
Ooh, probably too many. I look at LinkedIn a lot. I'm an avid reader of like New York Times and some of these other ones that cover a lot of biotech stuff. So a lot of these feeds come through my emails. I'm a little spoiled because I ain't got to gather no more. I've been readers of them for years. But those are some of the areas to look. If you're trying to research data as far as what does the market look like for your particular product or startup, I mean, Google's your best friend, but you got to really, really deep dive and decipher what's real and what's not. And you'll see it. It's not that hard. It's very rare that you can't find information as far as the market and what people are willing to pay for it. I will say, though, for medical device, sometimes it can be very hard to find that data because other countries outside of the U.S. pay more for medical device currently doing U.S. U.S. We already know we like to medicate, take a pill, sit down, drink some water. But other countries are very adept to medical devices and policies and things of that nature.
Thank you.
Hi, Dr. Tia. My
Hi.
name is Makeda. I was wondering, for students or academic researchers, how can we better position our innovations so that they are seen by companies like yours?
Got you. Well, I'm very approachable on LinkedIn, but you got to start going to these biotech conferences. That's one of the benefits of. I know I just trashed my school, Howard. I love them to death, though, but they get on my nerves. But when I was a student there, because we was in DC, that was one of the things that I had a lot of opportunity to do because the Bio International Convention back in the day used to be held in DC. So I used to go every year. I also took advantage. Spring break, I didn't go home. I would go intern somewhere like an NIH or even just intern. I interned at the Howard University Hospital in the med school as an undergraduate student. So there's different ways to do that too, especially if you're connected to a hospital and you have a device and you got your stuff together, meaning you have your paperwork in order, you got your company registered, you got your company email, not company at Gmail. It needs to say, John at Lucas Pi Bio. You want to have that name. That presence is everything. You want to have a website. It doesn't need to be a big website. It could be a brochure website with a few pages that talk about your product, talk about your team, and simply a page that say contact us. And people can put in their information to contact you. And then again, going to those conferences. So it may be intimidating sometimes because you see the big setup at the conferences with the flagship colors. You don't need to do all that. Just get some business cards, be there every day, save some money by staying at an Airbnb or with a friend or with a family or friend if they live local to that area, and you're gonna have to hustle. So a lot of these conferences, there are what we call what do they call them? Side breakout sessions. Excuse me, I'm learning these terms. Breakout sessions. That's where a lot of times where I met a lot of people that I do business with today. We're all sitting in a room, learning from the same people, and then you just start having conversations on whatever becomes spark. And then after a while, as you're attending these conferences on a regular basis, then you kind of get to know each other. So like I forgot his name, but the couple of doctors that work at Morehouse School of Medicine that are professors, but also have startup companies. We've known each other for years simply because it don't be that many of us going to those conferences, right? So you keep in contact, and LinkedIn is the best way. Even though I may not talk to them on the phone or email them, I can always see what they're doing. So that's another thing. Every time you hit a milestone with your startup, I ain't talking about company registration, okay? But okay, we just put up our website. We're attending this conference. We just raised our first, I don't care what it is. We won a pitch competition for 2,500. Keep posting. The more you post and the more somebody can follow you, the better chance you have of getting that funding later down the line at the later stage when you really need it. Another way to keep informed is if you go pitch to an investor and they decline you, it is very important. I know Mr. Eckhart was very generous in saying they give feedback. Maybe they do, but a lot of venture capital firms just deny you, and they won't say a reason why. It is up to you guys to follow up to say, what can I do better, right? Sometimes it may be some harsh criticism, especially if it's something that adversely affect underrepresented founders, because they target us a lot. They drill down us a lot deeper to make sure that it's a viable market. So you want to have your answers ready to their questions. But again, if you get declined, you want to ask them why, and if they can give you that feedback in writing and email, and you work on those things. You don't just brush it off. Some things you may need to work on. Some things you might be like, that's irrelevant. Like Lucas Bio, the first time I pitched, they told me that didn't sound like a biofarm name. Historically, biotech companies are the last names of Caucasian men. I chose to name mine after two African American women, my grandmothers. Okay, so it's things of that nature that you have to tease out, post your milestones, and even with those investors that declined you, ask if you can keep them updated. So with Lucas Bio, because it's taking such a long time, I have to do quarterly reports. These reports are heavily detailed because we got to do all this stuff with this land, and I finally got a commercial developing real estate partner to help with that. But even though it may not seem like a lot to you, so for me, I had to do a quarterly report, and I had to kind of tattletale on somebody because we need some help with some paperwork, right? And so for me, it's not a big deal. I'm like, we on phase 2 testing. We already completed phase 1. Here's the results. But to me, because I'm in it, it's not a big deal. But to people on the outside looking in, they're like, oh wow, okay, you're making progress. And who gave you what? You got 50,000. Okay, well let me write you a check, or let me know when y'all start mediating the land, and I'll write you a check. That's also how you get it out there. And then use your network. So it'll be my 20th reunion at Howard during Howard Homecoming in October. Instead of me going out there and balling out and trying to wear the latest clothes and shoes and rent a nice car, I'm investing that into an executive dinner of investors to invest in Lucas Bio, because by that time I'll have even more data and we'll be ready to actually hopefully start land remediation. So we'll need that funding. But I'm putting that into a nice place, a private chef, a full presentation, and inviting a guest of 12 to come hear that information. Keep investing in yourself. Keep sharing those milestones, no matter how small they are. And again, not company registration, but something that's worth telling to the outside world, to that individual, so you can keep them looped in on what's going on with you. So next time it comes around, that they're either going to write a check or they're going to refer somebody to write a check to you.
Hi, Dr. Tia.
Hi.
I researched a little bit about you before I came today. I'm an entrepreneur. I've been in business for myself for a little over 10 years now, and I've been looking into different avenues or entities inside of the pharmaceutical realm for a reason, because I'm currently battling cancer.
Okay.
But I'm also in a position to invest in certain areas, and specifically people who are interested in excuse my ignorance in this, because I'm new to biotech and different things within healthcare, and I'm submerging myself into different avenues so I can learn more about what doctors are trying to currently push in my life and push into my system. I come from a Hispanic background, and cancer is ridden in my family.
Okay.
And I'm the first person who is approaching it in a holistic kind of way.
Okay.
So do you have any current interest, or have you invested, or what advice could you give someone like me who is an entrepreneur and who is continuing that, but also able to invest in situations in biotech or in healthcare, specifically dealing with cancer, but in a more holistic way. I don't want to push a throat down my throat or push a pill down my throat or have a chemo port put in my chest to fight my cancer. I want to do it in a more holistic, healthy, natural way. I hear people talking about investing in drugs, but there's more to that to me because I care what's in my body. And thanks to Kwame, I've been learning a lot more about what I am putting in my body and how it does affect me. But I also have a son who depends on me and who I need to be here for. So I
Right.
would love to pass the information that I'm learning from these different people, such as yourself and such as you, doctor, and be able to teach him because he's a part of your community. And it's important to me because his dad's family has a lot of things that I don't want him to experience health wise. I want to give him the education and give him the chance to grow up as a young man that is healthy.
Understood. So the first thing I would say, as far as investing your dime, get with a group of angel investors. Is the first thing because they're going to do the due diligence on those companies to make sure that they legit, and also monitor to make sure that the money is being spent the right way. Now the caveat is that holistic medicine is very very hard for people to invest in, and here's why: holistic medicine is not regulated, right? So because there's no legal oversight, that presents a huge risk to those that invest in biotech, right? A lot of those holistic ways are managed similar to the way where they look at and manage cosmetics or just food that come imported in and out. Food additives, it's all the same way. There's no control in the manufacturing of those holistic products. So sometimes, I know y'all been seeing this stuff on the news with these GLP drugs. They testing them and they don't have the active ingredient. It's just salt and water or sugar and water, whatever's in there that somebody may think that they're getting the right drug. It's just a lot of risk with holistic medicine. To look at it, there are some conferences, I can't think of the name top of my head, that does explore that area where they bring holistic medicine startups to the forefront. But just understand financially, because they don't get a lot of investment from an actual entity, an angel investor or venture capital, that there is going to be higher risk with investing your money into those companies. Not to say they're not good companies, they don't work, but because there's no legal oversight for the quality to make sure the medicine is what it is prior to putting in your body and all the stuff in the way it's manufactured, you're not going to find a lot of entities willing to invest in that area. So it might be more of an individual contribution. They may be on some of these crowdfund websites as well for you to kind of read through it. And then you have your physicians and your doctors that you see, so you can always ask questions to them if you have a question about how that medicine work, or is what they're saying is actually true. You can use your personal network to kind of do your own due diligence with that. Does that answer your question? All right. Yes.
That was created? Did you have the company already made? And with that, what did you do with the money afterwards? And what advice do you have in general for turning an idea into something real?
Got you. So when I won that pitch competition, the company was already registered. I had already inked a deal with Jefferson University. They have a bioprocessing institute. It's not the first of its kind, but it was the first in the Philadelphia area. So what that means is that they had some type of engineering program for masters for students. But what attracted me to it was they had the actual equipment that we actually use in biomanufacturing. So my thought process was, because we was in the pandemic, that I can get some of these companies that still need to do tech transfers and figure out their manufacturing processes in partnership with the university. So when I won that check, it mostly went to trying to get that off the ground, and then also reinvested and ended up doing a crowd fund, which I generated some money from, but not a lot, but it did add on to what I won at the pitch competition. And then I just kept putting it back in the system. So they had to pay for travel. They might have had to pay for me going to sit down with customers, a lot of customers at that time, right? This stuff costs, guys. Gas, hotel stays, flights, all that stuff costs. That's what I mean by reinvesting in yourself. I invested in a couple of suits because I didn't have any suits. So I bought me 3 suits so I could be ready for the meeting. Little things of that nature. At this point, though, the money goes into an account to pay for some of this testing that we're doing with the land, and I also acquired a commercial real estate partner to help me go through this process with the state government and PA to go after additional funding. And here we are, $2.5 million later. So again, when you get that pitch competition money, it may be a small check, but that could pay for that website. If your company is not registered, it could pay for the legal fees to get that company registered. If there's another pitch competition where you may have to fly to, or more importantly, there's an accelerator. Some of the accelerators, the good ones, you got to pay them to participate in them. Just because it's free don't mean it's always good. Okay, so do your due diligence on these accelerator programs. Don't just take the word of the people that's operating accelerator. Talk to some of these companies that's been through it. Right, I'll put one out there. I hope they're not out there no more, but New Chip Accelerator. I don't know if they're still operating because they got hit with a lawsuit. Don't do it. Waste of time. Luckily, I didn't get that far in it where they didn't take too much of my money. But that's the other part of when you spend your money on these things, there's no getting the money back, right? I hate to say it, but because you're underrepresented founder, I've had this happen to me. Some people automatically assume that you spend the money on yourselves. So we're kind of a catch-22 if you're a founder from an underrepresented company. And I give you an example. We were doing a study for a building to outfit their building to be a co-working space and use our accelerator program. So they had to make a deposit and then they had to pay some more money, but all that money was used to cover the time of my engineers, architects, all the people for the cost of the study. When I got there, and I'm a sneakerhead, so I had some retro Kevin Durant sneakers on that were old but look new. And the first thing he said to me was, "Oh, I see you've already started spending the money." I couldn't react to that as much as I wanted to, because we had to get through the deal and do the job. So these are some of the things that you're going to be faced with and be mindful of, right? I don't think I don't wear my retro shoes out that much. Learning that lesson, it shouldn't be like that. But that's one of the things that I change about myself when interfacing with some of these funders. So you'll learn as you go on what to spend your money on, but just make sure that you keep good bookkeeping. Do not keep the money in your personal account or using it in your personal account. If something happens where you have to use your personal account for a business, make sure you have the receipt, the invoice, and all the things that go with it to back it up.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question about your SBIR grant. Suppose if you get SBIR phase 1, phase 2, that money actually, I have SBIR phase 1, phase 2 right now.
Okay.
About $2.5 million.
Okay.
But that money is only for research. It's not enough to get the data that is needed for IND approval from FDA.
No, it is not.
It's
You
not
need to go
enough.
right.
I'm talking about my area. I'm working cancer, developing new drug for the treatment of cancer.
Okay.
So cancer therapeutics, that 2.5 million phase 1, phase 2 together, not enough. In your state, do you get some support from your state? Because I know in some other state, they give matching fund. Do you have this kind of?
I know the state of PA don't do nothing as far as that piece goes. What you're probably gonna have to seek is from investment from either an angel investor or venture capital. Venture capital sometimes can start to invest early because of your particular product is a cancer treatment, and so I'm sure you already know this phase. Y'all got to actually test it on sick patients out the gate. So sometimes an angel investor will invest more than what they normally invest if your data looks that good, or you can go straight to a venture capital firm and they may be able to write that check for you if they see the vision up front. And there is an opportunity to do go back for phase 3. It's called it'll come to me and I'll come to you personally. There's a phase 2, but there is a phase 3 of funding too. It's not called phase 2. I just can't think of the name, but I'll come to you personally when they come back to me and let you know what that is. But they basically walk you through a commercialization strategy and then put you either in front of, then there's private firms that do this. They'll put you in front of big pharma to do a potential M&A or exit with them, or they'll put you in front of the big check investors through one of the conferences and do it that way as well. Yeah, we do have that in PA. I forgot about that. I just could never use it because of my companies. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm Davina Parker. I'm a psychotherapist in the area, and I specifically work with entrepreneurs in creating a work-life balance. And you
Mhm.
mentioned how in this particular field, there's a lot of loneliness. And you mentioned how even financially, there being challenges because, yeah, that's not your money. You have to
Right.
put that to the side. Can you speak to the importance of community? Because you mentioned your father, and it sounds like y'all were very close. You mentioned your grandmothers and how you've used their name in your business. Can you speak to the importance of community and specifically how it played a part, or how it plays a part in your world, so that you keep going to possibly encourage everybody here?
And what's your name one more time?
Davina.
Thank you, Dr. Davina. So first of all, I do have a therapist. I see my therapist at least twice a month to have conversations about personal work, whatever I need to scream about, situations when the dude thought I spent my money on my shoes, all those type of situations, you can't necessarily react on them. And so you need somewhat of a confidant to have those conversations with, and that typically is your therapist. But I do have a group of support from family and friends. How can I say this? If your family or friend is not familiar with the entrepreneurial journey, agnostic or whatever industry, you're probably not going to find a lot of help with them. What they're very good at is supporting you on your highs and maybe on your lows, telling you, girl, come over here, get something to eat, get ice cream, something like that. Your therapist and like-minded people where you can kind of really let your hair down and let them know what you're going through, you're going to need that. Sometimes it gets to a point on an entrepreneurial journey where it just becomes too much. You might have heard 20 no's in 1 week, or it might have been one of your big fat no's during the week, or sometimes it's just a delay that was just out of your hands. For instance, with JTT, we were supposed to be submitting our proposal last month. One of my partners failed to get our SAM code on time. Right, lesson learned from me, because normally I like to do things myself, but I'm trying to delegate. But anyway, those are setbacks that you could be mad all day. At the end of the day, it's still your fault. But you still got to find a move forward, right? Your investors don't want to hear no sob story. Venture capitalists don't want to hear no sob story. Your patient don't want to hear no sob story. Everybody want to hear the wins, and so you need to have a community that can really understand. And the other part of it is you need to have a schedule where you do nothing, because sometimes as an entrepreneur, a lot of times we'll just sit down, we'll work, and all you're doing is seeing the sun up and sun come down. But you have to have some time within your schedule, and it can be little things. So for instance, with me, I try to make sure I get outside, especially in the summer, get outside and take a walk. I live in downtown PA, Philly. So right where y'all saw the Eagles parade, that's where I live at, right? Very nice area. So I make sure to get out in the middle of my day, and if it's just a 10-minute or 20-minute walk, do that. If I'm going to eat lunch, I make sure I stop. I don't care if I'm at home by myself or somewhere else. I make sure I stop and eat my lunch and not be near a computer or my phone. So these are little small things that you can do to kind of help yourself keep sane. My mom, my sister, because I only got one sister, they like to gossip. I call it the TMZ moment. I can't hear that stuff all day. That's just not how my brain works, right? So I give them 2 times out the month. We can sit on the phone for an hour, hour and a half, and I let them just chit chat. But instead of blocking them out, right? I sometimes do. But I make sure that the computer is turned off. So as I'm responding to them in my own way, I'm engaged and they feel like they're engaged, right? Because that's the other part of it too. Your family, your friends will kind of feel, as you're feeling isolated, they may feel isolated from you as well. And you have to monitor those relationships. And then I'm 41 and trying to get married hopefully soon. So now I have to worry about that with my partner as well.
These are some golden nuggets that Dr. Tia shared with us. Let's give Dr. Tia a round of applause.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so very much. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Fantastic evening. Thank you to our speakers earlier, Kwame, Mike, fantastic job. And that wraps it up. Thank you, everyone.